2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to the NESN Soccer Show. I'm Mark, here with Marcus as always. Marcus, we've been off for a little bit of time.
Yeah, I forgot how to do this. Kinda.
Some slight adjustments here at NESN and everything kind of put on hold, including the NESN Soccer Show. But we've righted the ship. We're back on track. We're back in our dingy studio in the back of the building, ready to talk about some soccer.
Right.
And a little bit of, I guess, like a World Cup preview. All the teams in the World Cup will play another sort of round of friendlies right before the tournament starts.
Yeah.
But this was kind of the last chance to basically get a look at the roster you're going to pick, or like the guys that you're going to bring into camp before you make the final cut. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think most of the managers and coaches have maybe 18 to 20 of their guys, that they're certain about. So these games are really for the ones that are numbers 20 through 23
right.
or, 20 through 26. You have a few replacement players that you bring along to the tournament. So it's really for those players. The tournament starts in under 3 months. So
it's getting closer.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much right here. And yeah, I wouldn't call it a World Cup preview, but it's definitely a good look at where teams are before things get ultra serious.
Right. When I'm thinking about the World Cup these days, I kept going through ebbs and flows after the U.S. got eliminated from contention that I thought I wasn't going to be excited, and that is proved to be not true. I'm very excited for the World Cup, and I think that as it gets closer and closer, it'll just build and build like always. And I think that is kind of going to be the case in the U.S. I don't think it'll be as big of a drop-off as maybe a lot of people are projecting because the U.S. isn't in it. I think there will be obviously a drop-off, and kind of the fan that kind of only gets invested in USA soccer during the World Cup, that fan might not be there, but I think there are so many soccer fans in the U.S. now that it's going to be just as big, or it's going to be very, very big, and the biggest event of the summer, sports-wise, by far.
This has been kind of a major issue since October when the U.S. was eliminated from the World Cup contention. I don't see any drop-off coming because the World Cup is such a party that it's going to go on without the people that like to wrap themselves in the flag and cheer for the USA. From the what I've been telling people is that the ones that will probably lose out are Fox. Fox is missing out on 3 or maybe 4 dates where they would have 15 to 25 million television viewers.
Boo-hoo for Fox.
Yeah, it spikes during those USA games, but for the rest of the time, they have every other game on for the month, and people watch them. People are going to bars. People are getting together at houses.
Yeah.
People are throwing parties for the World Cup. And it's not just the quote-unquote casual sports fan who will only tune in to watch Team USA. They're not really in the party anyway. But there's still going to be tens of millions of people
for sure
in the United States who are, and this isn't even counting Mexico fans.
Right.
Just tens of millions of people who are either soccer fans, or they support specific teams, or they just want to, everybody's having a good time and they want to be a part of it.
I was going to say, not even to get too off track, because we are going to get into a lot of the friendlies that took place this weekend, but even in the Boston area, like if the best part of the World Cup for you was the party surrounding watching a sporting event, find a Brazilian bar. Or find...
you can find any bar, and the World Cup will be on. You don't have to make it an ethnic experience. It's
there's going to be so many options throughout the city of places where you can go, where you can get really into and rowdy about one of these games or most of these games. You're going to have no trouble. And
the games will be on everywhere,
right?
And it's not just going to be in specific communities and specific. I think it's a big. It's an error that I'm predicting people are going to make, and I remember 4 years ago, somebody in this building said, "Wow, we were caught off guard by how big it is," and I looked them dead in the eye and said, "You shouldn't have been."
It's the biggest sporting event in the world.
And this has been going on. The World Cup's been a big deal in the United States since 1994.
Yeah.
What is that? 24 years now. Big numbers, tens of millions of people watching on television in English.
Right.
And then another set of tens of million watching in Spanish.
Right. And that's the one reality that we might have to face here is that at least this summer, and I think for a lot of the time, Mexico is the most popular international soccer team in the United States.
Yeah, by far.
And it was proof when they sold out Jerry World this weekend versus Croatia in a friendly.
Yeah.
So that's not easy to do. I don't think USA would have sold out that game under the same exact scenario.
No. USA, Croatia, not a chance.
But Mexico lost.
Yeah.
But Croatia is a little better, I think, than people realize.
Which people?
Well, maybe just the international soccer.
Croatia's got Croatia's a weird team because they have some damn good players like Luka Modric, 3 Champions League titles, Ivan Rakitic. I mean, they've got arguably the strongest central midfield pairing in the tournament with Modric and Rakitic. But in recent years, and I've always been picking Croatia to do well, and they end up, with egg on my face. Because for some reason, well, I'm about to tell the reason, but Croatia always underperforms, and it's because their federation is in
shambles?
I wouldn't say shambles. It's been overtaken by far-right neo-Nazi influence that has caused them,
Yikes.
It's caused them a lot of problems.
Right.
I think it was the Euro 2016 qualification. Somebody painted a swastika on the field, and sections of their fan stadium had been closed. Their captain was banned for doing, neo-Nazi salutes on the field. It's serious stuff. So
I'm surprised you're picking them to do well based on these reasons.
I never learned my lesson. Yeah, but Croatia, they have good players.
Yeah.
They have a few great players, and they beat Mexico without most of them.
Right. And in a road essential home match for Mexico.
Yeah. Oh, in Dallas, that's a home game.
But Mexico put out a strong lineup.
Yeah.
And what do you think you can expect from Mexico? I mean, is there anything you saw in this match that you were thinking is going to translate to the World Cup and is encouraging, discouraging? I mean, I know they lost, but maybe is there some sort of deeper dive into it?
Well, full disclosure, I didn't see the game, but I get the sense that it's Mexico kind of freezing in the face of a strong European opponent, and then there's this sense of injustice because at the end of the game there were a few penalty appeals that Mexico wanted and didn't get, and got a little feisty at the end. We've seen this from Mexico before. When the chips are down, they'll start fighting and complaining about the call. I mean, they're still complaining about Arjen Robben's dive in 2014, which was 4 years ago. Yeah, I don't know. We can call it the same old Mexico. That's I didn't see the game. Didn't see how the flow of play was, but just sort of from the main flashpoints, that was the sense I got.
Right.
Should have had a penalty kick. They start a little skirmish towards the end of the game when they're not winning, but Mexico is in a group with Germany, South Korea, and
Sweden.
Is it Sweden?
Yeah, it's Sweden.
Okay, and Sweden. If Mexico doesn't win that game, Mexico's main goal is to get to the quarterfinal for the first time since 1986, second time since 1970. Those are two tournaments they hosted. You know, this is an obsession in Mexico, is to get to that 5th game of the tournament. If they don't top that group and beat Germany, they're going to end up against a major power in the round of 16, and
be tough.
You know, they can't wilt again in the face of a major power. They actually have to impose themselves, which they weren't able to do against Croatia, against a weakened Croatia.
I think it's kind of not realistic when I look at it for Mexico to beat Germany, in that they play Germany in their opening match of the tournament.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Germany a little bit later, but I mean, it's kind of hard. Brazil looks incredible, but Germany, I would say, is the second favorite to win the tournament.
Yeah.
And then I look at Sweden and South Korea, and I don't necessarily, of course it's a World Cup. I don't think there's any given wins, but I don't necessarily regard Mexico as huge favorites versus either of those teams. I think they'll advance, but I think they're gonna not look so great advancing in my mind, and probably end up, like you said, in that round of 16 matchup versus
Brazil.
Yeah, somebody that they just can't beat.
Yeah,
and
I think it's the number 2 goes against the number 1 in Brazil's group. So
okay,
tough. Yeah, you can kind of assume. Yeah.
Well, that's just luck of the draw. You end up playing maybe the 2 best teams in the tournament if it works out that way.
And then Mexico had 3 players stretchered off: Nestor Araujo, Carlos Salcedo, and Diego Reyes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their conditions are, but take any one of those 3 out of the lineup for the tournament, and Mexico's job just got a lot harder.
Right. But kind of something that is worth mentioning is the sellout crowd at Jerry World. You have here the figure is 79,128 people, including Dak Prescott.
Yep.
Wearing Mexico gear.
Apparently, Dak Prescott's a soccer fan. I saw another picture of him at an FC Dallas game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool.
Seems like a passionate guy. Just he's a big sports guy. I feel like he's ready to get in line with anything.
If you say so.
Yeah, well, because I think I've seen him at a bunch of NBA games as well. So it's like he's going to all these different sporting events.
He's young and rich.
Yeah, that's true.
Wouldn't you?
That's probably exactly what I would do. Also worth noting, at least for me, is that Jonathan Gonzalez, the one that got away for USA, was on the roster for the Mexico friendly versus Croatia, but did not make an appearance.
Okay.
And I guess he's probably one of those fringe players. I mean, it's just worth noting because he was fully in the camp for Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
And he's one of those fringe players trying to make the roster for the World Cup.
I think he played Friday against Iceland, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's just for me, it's just kind of a player that I'm just going to keep watching until I know exactly what happens and what ends up of his career, and so I can just truly gauge how sad or upset I should be about losing the player.
Sounds masochistic of you, but do what you got to do.
I will. On to 2 teams that we've mentioned who match up against each other: Germany and Brazil.
Yes.
I was kind of, I don't know why I was surprised, but there were some really high quality matchups just when you look at the names of the countries facing each other.
Right.
That took place in this friendly window. And obviously Germany-Brazil, I think, is the number 1. Brazil wins at 1-0. Gabriel Jesus with the goal, and obviously no Neymar. I think it's still kind of up in the air, Neymar's status for the World Cup, right?
Well, he should play, but
how healthy will he actually be?
Yeah, I have serious doubts about his fitness and sharpness.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll be there. He'll be on the roster. Will he be at his best? I'll say no now.
Because he won't play a competitive match again until the World Cup.
He might not.
And I think does that take Brazil from being possibly the favorite of the tournament to kind of being back in the pack with Germany, Spain, Argentina?
Yes.
Yeah. He's that favorite. Well,
Yes.
of course he is.
No, I mean, this is sports. You take the best player out of any team, or, they might be able to cope for a night, but over time, they're going to be weaker.
Right.
Period.
Now, you've written here, is this a measure of closure from their 7-1 defeat in the 2014 World Cup?
Yeah.
In Brazil? I would have to imagine not really.
I didn't write it. I wrote it as a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't say yes. I think psychologically I don't know how many of the players that played yesterday were on the field in 2014 in that semifinal, but I get the feeling for those guys that were there, it was important. They've moved on in their careers, but that was such a traumatic event for the whole team and the whole country. I don't think you can ever fully heal from that, but as professional athletes, I think there was something in the back of their mind that said, I saw a bit of that Germany-Brazil game.
Germany,
Yeah, and you could tell Brazil they were really switched on, and they really wanted to win the game. It seemed like it was more than just getting their legs under them or impressing their coach. The result was it looked to be really important for them,
right?
Especially, and it was in Berlin as well.
For sure. I also think that with that game in particular, there's not many scenarios where a game can take place with Brazil and I end up feeling bad for like Brazilian soccer. And I think that's the only time I've ever watched a game and seen Brazil.
What, yesterday?
No. The 7-1 defeat.
Oh, yes.
Just to kind of emphasize the magnitude of just how bad that was.
Yeah.
In the World Cup, in Brazil.
In the semifinal.
And then, of course, Germany goes on to win it. Kind of makes it even worse. But, yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
But, okay, I guess we also got that the game ended Germany's 22-game unbeaten streak.
Yep. One shy of their record.
That's pretty nuts. And to do it in Brazil or in Berlin, I guess in that sense, maybe it was a little bit of a helped redeem the World Cup situation.
Yeah, I mean, Germany has been, they've been on a roll since winning the World Cup, and everybody assumes they are the favorites going in and they will win the World Cup. I don't. I look at the players that were key in 2014 and have now moved on and retired, and they've been replaced by kind of young hotshots, but I don't think those young hotshots are at the standard of your Philip Lahms and your Bastian Schweinsteigers and your Lucas Podolskis even. Right. That's just my opinion, which will be proven right in a couple months.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think they're still going to do very well, but I don't think they'll win.
They had some guys that were, European champions. Well, the story with those older guys is that they had played together for a long time, for club and country, most of them, Bayern Munich in Germany, and they had near misses in 2008. I think it was the Euro 2008. Was that the final against Spain? I think it was like 1-0, very tight game. But then for the next 4 or 5 years, they had gone far in the Champions League and always just, slipped up at the end. I think they lost in the final in 2010 and 2012 or something like that. 2013, they finally got it right when they won the Champions League. And then a year later, they become world champions. So, groups have to learn how to lose together before they can win. This Germany team, this current Germany team,
has never lost.
22-game unbeaten streak, But they also haven't, their players also haven't won anything in the Champions League since then. So, and they didn't win at Euro 2016. And, I just see a slight drop in their level from where they were 4 years ago. And that's,
That's enough to make you not win.
Yeah, there's no shame in that.
Yeah. Another matchup of Titans, Spain and Argentina.
Yeah.
Spain made easy work of a Messi-less Argentina squad. Messi didn't play in either Argentina friendly.
Right.
Argentina did defeat Italy 2-0 before the weekend, and then ended up losing to Spain like this.
Wow.
I don't know. It's hard to judge because you know that Messi's going to be in the game.
Have you said the score? The score 6-1. I mean,
Yeah.
this wasn't just a loss, but
Right.
you know, it's almost like I was communicating with a friend from Argentina during the game, or maybe it was before the game, and he was very upbeat about the team. And then after the game, he messaged me and said the coach needs to blow up the whole thing.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, wild swings of emotion within the span of about 2 hours.
Well, I'm looking at the game log here, and there's looks like 12 substitutions total between the two teams, and I'm just wondering how much you can really judge the score in this game. But at the same time,
12 subs, that's a fake game.
yeah. At the same time, if it's a 6-1 victory, that's worth something. And I guess if anything, just makes me turn my eye and look at Spain and wonder or want to take a deeper look at how ready they are to make another deep World Cup run, and if they're going to be able to. We talk about Germany taking a slight step back. Mm-hmm. If Spain has taken a slight step forward, they're of the quality where that is a significant situation.
But where are they stepping forward from? They're not stepping forward from 2010 world champions or 2012 European champions.
No.
They're stepping forward from that 2014 team, which,
no.
I mean, boy, did they flop. I don't even think they got out of the group stage, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, and how did they do at Euro 2016? I don't remember, but, you know, nothing special, obviously.
Exactly, you don't remember.
Yeah. You know, Spain's another team. Lionel Messi on, I think it was yesterday, Tuesday, came out with his list of contenders and favorites. And he said Brazil, Germany, France, and Spain.
Yeah, and he left himself off, right?
He left himself off,
or left
Argentina. And I kind of had to laugh at it. You know, it seemed like he was playing a little bit of a mind game
with his teammates.
Yeah, with his teammates and, you know, and opponents and the press. You know, you want to downplay Argentina's chances and you want to play up everybody else's, which just kind of adds to their pressure, reduces yours. Yeah, I saw the list and I called BS.
Well, I do think that Argentina is kind of like amongst the top soccer countries in the world, in that realm, kind of the underdog of the big guys, if that makes sense. Or just kind of...
Yeah, I suppose.
They can never put it entirely together.
I mean, Argentina were runners-up in 2014. Runners-up Copa America 2015. Runners-up Copa America 2016.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this Argentina team, it's not like Spain. Spain didn't get out of the group stage in 2014.
They've been very, very close.
Yeah. So, you know, they've also had their problems at the federation level, but they still have Lionel Messi. And as long as you have him,
you got a shot.
You might win the World Cup.
All right, well, team that won't win the World Cup, the United States of America. They also played a friendly, and they won 1-0 versus Paraguay.
Yeah.
On a penalty scored by Bobby Wood,
mm-hmm.
I believe, right at the end of the first half. What were you excited about this at all?
No.
Was there anything that you wanted to see come out of this camp for the United States in this international friendly window at all?
No. And I wouldn't even call it watch the game. I was present while the game was on a screen near me. You know, I think I said months ago that I wish the United States just wouldn't play another game for several months. You know, they played, I think, Bosnia in January and then Paraguay in March with two teams that were basically kids. You know, they put the kids out there. I came to this realization on last night, though, during the game, was that why aren't the veterans playing? I know I know they're trying to give young guys a chance, but you know, the quality of the game was it was terrible. It was of kind of like Olympic team standard and maybe under 20. And, yeah, most of the guys on the field were that age.
Yeah.
But
I mean, who's the most veteran player on the roster here? I guess Bobby Wood and Darlington Nagbe.
Yeah, I think those were the only two that are...
DeAndre Yedlin
played. And Yedlin, yeah. So they have a few regulars, but my problem was it's an international game. I know the U.S. doesn't have anything, no meaningful game until the Gold Cup in 2019.
Yeah.
But these veterans, and I was saying Tim Howard, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, these veterans should be barking at the manager saying, I was saying playing for the shirt. Even though the games don't mean anything, why aren't they still saying, I'm representing my country? Doesn't representing your country, isn't that as important now as it was 6 months ago?
So you're saying you would have liked to maybe see some quote
all of them. I wanted to see all of them out there playing for their spots.
But do you think it was... I get the feeling that it probably wasn't their decision. But at the same time, I do get what you're saying.
So it's not their decision, so whose decision is it?
I think it's the
coach's decision,
the coach.
Maybe, right? But, what kind of signal is he sending to me, the viewer, who, does he want me to spend 2 hours to watch a glorified under-21
Maybe they
national
weren't
team?
very concerned about that, though, and they're just trying to focus on developing young talent. But I do also...
Well, they can do that behind closed doors.
I think that there is something to be said that we haven't heard, like, a peep from Tim Howard or Michael Bradley or the better, older players.
Oh, Jeff Cameron's been talking. I mean, he...
Oh, well, yeah, because he didn't play.
Yeah, he threw Bruce Arena under the bus.
Right.
And,
but there hasn't been a peep about sort of wanting to continue to compete for the national team.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird.
And it's just like there's almost an acceptance of just fading away because that's what'll happen.
But as competitors, you should be like, hell no, I'm not fading away.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think I'd be pretty happy if that was going on and there was these kind of quotes coming out of just, oh, I want to play again. Yeah. I'm not done with the national team.
Right.
And I think
even if you have 100 caps, you should be like, I want 101 caps and 103 caps.
I think we'll see them again at some point. Maybe the Gold Cup would be it. But
I mean, the Gold Cup's not until next year.
Yeah, it won't be. I agree.
So they have 3 games coming up in May. Bolivia, Ireland, and France.
Mm-hmm.
If USA isn't playing its strongest squad, I'm not watching a minute of any of those games. That's it. I'll watch. Yeah.
But you don't want to watch, even in the sense of like getting to know these younger players that are trying to break through the roster.
No. I clapped when Timothy Weah came on because he's George Weah's kid, but no. Because they haven't earned it through
beating out the other guys.
Yes, through merit and competition.
I do think that even just having those guys in the camp, because they weren't there. I don't know what Tim Howard was up to this weekend, but he wasn't with USA Soccer. And to have that competition will only make those players better.
Exactly. I've been railing against people handing out caps just for the hell of it for years.
Yeah.
You should have to earn it through strong play at your club consistently over time. And what U.S. does far too often is a young guy will come in and, he'll play 2 months at a European team. He'll get called into camp. He'll get a couple caps. And then they say, oh, well, we want to develop him at this level. No, the way you develop at that level is by beating out somebody that's there. Yeah. And you do that by busting, your tail every single day with your club and giving the manager no choice.
Right.
And saying, Tim Howard, your time's up. This guy's in, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not like, we're going to give you a half here or just try you out. It's maybe that's just my opinion.
No, I think you're right. I think that's the best way to have the best possible team.
Yeah, you don't want to treat the national team like a club where, we're blooding our youngsters. And
it does seem like that's kind of something that's going on. But at the same time,
I think going on for decades.
USA Soccer in general, like, it just doesn't. It seems like it's kind of in a holding pattern
Well,
period
it is, yeah.
until they get a new coach.
Yeah.
Probably in the fall.
It'll be after the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think until then, and with this European tour of sorts, with these 3 matches versus Bolivia, Ireland, and France, it'll be kind of more of the same. And I wouldn't expect to take much from those 3 matches that is going to be considered by whoever they hire as the next coach of the U.S. men's national team. I mean, that coach will obviously look at those matches and take away what he wants, but he's going to make his own decisions, and he's going to have his own opinions about what players he wants and how he wants to build the roster.
Yeah. And I was happy for Dave Sarakin, the stand-in placeholder caretaker coach, that he's getting a chance. You know, he's been a very important figure in U.S. soccer for 3 decades. You know, he's getting a chance to lead the national team, and that's great for him. I'm happy that he gets that opportunity, but he's doing it with a glorified under-23 team.
Yeah.
That, you know.
I bet he doesn't have all that much say either. Like,
yeah,
you
it's
know.
like partially a slap in the face, and it's also a pat on the back, but it's also a slap in the face.
Well, all right. This kind of ties in. Well, no, it doesn't really tie in, but throughout these friendlies, we saw a bunch of sort of the biggest players not playing.
Yeah.
And you posed the question, is keep them from injury or mind games? What exactly do you mean by mind games?
As in, you don't want to tip your hand as to what you're going to do in the World Cup. You know, you don't want to see what Argentina looks like with Lionel Messi. You don't want to see what Germany looks like with Mesut Ozil. You know, you don't want to show too much, but you also want to show something. You know, it's kind of a balancing act. A friend of mine asked me that question. It's like, why are they resting these guys?
Yeah.
Is it to save them or mind games? And I said both.
Right.
You know, a lot of the guys that sit have to play for their clubs this weekend, and then they have Champions League games next week,
and maybe a cup, domestic cup match,
right, and then
whatever's
a league game
coming
after
up.
that, and then another Champions League game. So, you know, in the big picture of their seasons, do they want to be playing against Brazil? You know, it's not necessary. It's not necessary for them.
I think it is everything you just said. Plus, it's what we talked about earlier in that they're, you know, the first 15 to 18 players on a World Cup squad are pretty much decided.
Yeah.
And you've got,
and those are the guys that are resting.
Right. You've got maybe 10 to 15 players in some cases that are competing for 5, 6 more spots.
Something like that.
So you need to see how they compete at the highest level that you can provide for them.
Right.
And that is, at this point, a friendly match. And you want to see how those guys play.
Yeah.
And having Messi out there doesn't really benefit Messi, doesn't really benefit Argentina. And it's kind of just, all those things add up to the rosters that you see in these friendly games.
Yeah.
All right.
And actually, Mexico's coach, Juan Carlos Osorio, he was complaining about Croatia leaving their strongest players or letting them go back to their European clubs. And, you know, he was like, I want my team to test themselves against these big players. And, you know, Croatia didn't do that. So it
Can't blame them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so we've got this number here, 114,242 people attended essentially meaningless friendly matches in the U.S.
3 of them.
What does it mean about World Cup buzz in America? We've kind of already talked about this, but...
I mean, 115,000 or 114,000 on a Tuesday night?
Yeah. Pretty good.
In 3 different parts of the country? Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
On teams that, you know, only 10,000 of that number was for the United States. I think that means the powers that be are significantly undercounting what the buzz will be.
I am kind of excited for the moment of, which I'm sure will come, that you've talked about, like, I can't believe how big the World Cup is, but especially in sort of this, I'll say, anti-soccer stronghold of New England.
Is New England an anti-soccer stronghold?
I would say compared to a lot of different parts of the country, I mean, there's definitely different. Well, maybe there's just pockets of very strong soccer areas around the country.
I would say the million Brazilian and Portuguese that live in the region would disagree.
That's true.
Yeah.
But as somebody will say to me, I can't believe how big this is. And I'll just say, I can't believe you haven't been enjoying this for as long as I've been enjoying it.
Yeah. I would say I can't believe your head is still in the sand in 2018.
But I guess that does it for our World Cup previews. Not previews, but international matches.
Sure.
But there's been some other big soccer news in the United States in the past week. Zlatan Ibrahimovic
Yes.
will play for the LA Galaxy
Yes.
in 2018.
Yes.
Marcus.
Yes.
If for those of us in New England, that means that on July 14th, when the LA Galaxy play the Revolution at Gillette Stadium, a match which I will attend, I will really hope that Zlatan will be in that match. You never know. Maybe he'll be rested. Maybe he'll only play 10 minutes at the end.
Yeah, the turf is a wild card for that game. I remember Thierry Henry, when he was here, he didn't play on turf.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was his entire time during the 3 or 4 years he played in MLS, but definitely in the last season, he did not play on turf. So I'm a little bit concerned that maybe Ibra might sit this one out, but no, we don't know yet. He hasn't played. He just arrived in the league.
Yeah, and it's going to be, a little bit of time. I guess they want him to play in LA Galaxy versus LAFC,
that'd be great.
But it's pretty soon, and he is coming off a serious injury.
Yeah, I mean, he's played since the injury. And I think the reason why he hasn't actually played in the Premier League is that there might have been a setback, but also Romelu Lukaku is
on fire.
Pretty settled, not on fire, but he's settled in as the starting striker at Man United. And
a good example of being forced out of your starting role.
Yeah. Well, it was injury and the $75 million they spent on his replacement.
So there's all the talk, and people want to use Zlatan as another example of an older player coming to the United States to play in MLS as the quote retirement league.
Yeah.
I think that Zlatan will. First of all, he doesn't that doesn't fit his personality.
No.
To do something like that.
Yeah.
And
just to fade away.
He's absolutely aware of it because that's who he is as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect him to perform extremely well in MLS and be one of the top players in the league, which will, in the play itself, and I'm sure he'll say some things that'll be great, but in the play itself, it'll prove this wasn't a retirement move. This was me coming to MLS to compete, to help a team win, and, yes, give the United States the gift of my play, as he would like to do.
Zlatan, I think, will be the best signing in the league since Sebastian Giovinco. He's a star, and I mean that in a Hollywood sense, not on-field sense.
Yeah.
The biggest signing since David Beckham. And this is a story I've been following for 3 years.
Right.
Zlatan coming to L.A. or MLS maybe. And I wrote about it in 2015 when he applied for a U.S. non-tourist visa. And then he, set up his apparel brand here, I think, last year. So he's been taking steps over the years to come, and I think it was just sort of waiting for it to make sense in a soccer sense.
Yeah.
And it happened. Man United terminated his contract 3 months early, so he could come and, play in MLS. And then there's this question that, is he going to play in the World Cup for Sweden? He retired.
I don't think so.
He was, who does Sweden have that's better than him?
Well, they qualified without him. They defeated Italy without him.
Who do they have that's better than him?
I don't know. but they qualified without him. I would say that, you know,
I don't think Zlatan's played in the World Cup since maybe 2010 or 6, or it's been a long time.
I think it was 2010, but I would be surprised just because he retired from that, and then they go through all of qualifying without him playing one of those matches, and for him to suddenly just come back in because they're in the World Cup, frankly, probably wouldn't sit well with a lot of the Sweden players.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Fight him? They're going to confront Zlatan? He's a judo champion. He's not. No, I mean, I have this vision of Zlatan deciding, he'll play well at LA for a month or two, and then unretire from Sweden for 6 weeks, and then retire again, and then he'll do something crazy in the World Cup, and everybody in the U.S. will love him and want to go see him.
That would be fun. I think that's the Marcus romantic version of things.
Yeah, I do romance.
But I do think it'll be like the tour of Zlatan everywhere that LA Galaxy goes. I think he will kind of bring increased attention to the different MLS venues he goes to.
I agree.
And I think LA Galaxy already does very well with...
So you bought the ticket to that game?
Yeah.
Right. Will you watch...
Me and four other people.
Will you five watch Zlatan on television? He might debut next Saturday. LAFC versus LA Galaxy on Big Fox.
I'll tell you what, I'm not going to sit around and plan.
No is the answer.
Well, I'm not going to plan around it, but if I am at home on a Sunday
and nothing else is on, and you're just...
It's not even nothing else is on, because something else may be on, but I will be aware, Galaxy are playing.
Right.
Zlatan's playing.
But this is MLS's, eternal problem. It's Zlatan's coming to town, let's go see him live, but it's not where the money is. The money's
on TV.
That's right. So
I think it will result in maybe where I wouldn't have watched any LA Galaxy games throughout the MLS season.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm going to watch a few, if not more. And if I watch one and he does do something great, then it's okay, well, now I got to start watching a little bit more than just...
And he will do something great.
Yeah.
Because it's Zlatan. He's still capable at age 36 of doing things that nobody else can do.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely going to be exciting, but we are running low on time, and I want to fit one last thing in that you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I was going to surprise you.
Oh, right.
I think I've mentioned this to you before, but I am going on a little vacation next week.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to be in Europe, and I will attend Liverpool at Crystal Palace in London.
Oh.
That'll be Saturday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, if you want to watch, and if the listeners out there want to watch.
This coming Saturday?
This coming Saturday, 3 days from now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
maybe. If I'm awake.
Liverpool is in the Champions League still.
Yeah.
And they'll have a quarterfinal first leg match, I think 2 or 3 days after this match versus Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what kind of roster they come out with. But they're currently in third and in the Premier League, but seem to have a top 4 spot pretty well in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Crystal Palace is sitting at 16th and just 2 points out of relegation. So on both ends, it's kind of just interesting to see. Crystal Palace really needs a point or maybe 3.
Yeah.
And Liverpool is kind of probably not going to play their number 1 roster. I'm expecting a B-plus type roster. And I'm just excited to see the Crystal Palace crowd potentially
fantastic, by the way. One of the best in
a situation where they could see their team beat Liverpool at home. Could be really great. I'm expecting it to be really great. I'm very excited.
I mean, Crystal Palace has been a house of horrors for Liverpool in recent years. I think maybe last year they kind of gotten over that, but certainly between 2014 and 2016 or 17, just demoralizing loss after demoralizing loss. Yeah, good for you. Congratulations.
And then I'm excited. I will have a full match report when I come back.
You can post it on the website.
And maybe some comments on just the rest of the soccer that I may take in. I'm not going to attend any other matches, but there will be Champions League during midweek while I'm over there, and plus another weekend of games. So I think it would just be kind of fun to just take it all in and see how people take in soccer actually in Europe, which I've never really been able to do. So
well, it's at night. It's kind of like how we watch sports.
I know it's that'll be weird. Here. It's not early in the morning.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we got to get wrapped up here.
Yes, we do.
But it's been great to be back, Marcus.
Yeah.
We're gonna, I guess, take another little break when I go on my vacation. But when we come back, we will be in sort of the stretch run of league seasons in Europe and the Champions League, and then going kind of all out for a World Cup. And more details on that to come as we figure out the details. Yeah. But we'll be all over it come summertime, and we're obviously very excited.
Me too.
Marcus, always getting excited. Calm down, Marcus. All right, well, thanks for joining us, and be sure to follow us on iTunes, iTunes/NESN, and follow the podcast, NESN.com/podcast, and YouTube.com/NESN.